disrupted.
America that I fought.
Weird thing to happen. Hello, one and all. Welcome to this edition of Kitz Corner. It's been a fantastic day so far. So, not only is college campuses here in North America, primarily the United States, but it's also happening in Canada, surprisingly. I didn't even notice that because our media doesn't even cover crap that's happening here. Not only are protests happening here in North America with Palestine and Israel and having a ceasefire moment to, practically stop this war, stop the genocide, stop the mass murder of innocent civilians, and move on with our lives and actually have some sort of decency in this world. It's also happening in Israel. And we have shown this before October 7th, before the day of questioning that kind of rose this horrific scene into impact, is people were against the Netanyahu regime beforehand. They were actually hoping that he would resign with mass protests countering him, saying that, he doesn't represent the citizens of Israel, doesn't represent the Jewish faith, doesn't represent the Jewish community, so on and so forth. Then October 7th, then people, the Zionists came out and squashed against, not only people that were for Palestine resistance, but also against aesthetic Jews and people that were crying for basically a peace resolution. So it's happening now again, ladies and gentlemen, that the people of Israel are coming out to realizing that Netanyahu does not represent the people of Israel, because the people of Israel are saying enough is enough. The people of Israel want a peace agreement between Israelis and the Palestinians. They want some sort of negotiation. But, of course, with any war, it's not us that gets to decide. It's the people that get massacred, and the higher-ups, the establishment, the warlords like Netanyahu, Joe Biden, and others that command us to go in harm's way. So here it is. Times of Israel reports, protesters block Tel Aviv highway demanding deal. It's either Rafah or the hostages. As Netanyahu vows IDF will enter southern Gaza City regardless of potential truce with Hamas, protesters place giant photos of female captives outside the Prime Minister's Jerusalem home. And this is from the publication in Israel. So it's amazing that they can even report something significant as this, whereas our counterparts here in the Western Hemisphere, because we're bought out by big corporations that are siding with this, we're not allowed to say squat. And if we do say squat, we immediately get called anti-Semitic, we're against our allies, it's anti-American, how dare you, you're some sort of hippie, you're some sort of pro-terrorist, yada, yada, yada. You've heard all the tropes before. So it says protesters on Thursday morning blocked Tel Aviv's Alon Highway in both directions for around 20 minutes in a demonstration calling for an immediate deal to free over 100 hostages held by Hamas in Gaza since October 7th. Holding a large banner reading, "It's either Rafah or the hostages chose life," the protesters stood in the middle of the busy thoroughfare to prevent morning traffic from passing. Hebrew media reported that several families of hostages were leading the protests, including Yada Cohen, the father of a 19-year-old Nimrod Cohen, Yafet Calderon, the cousin of Ofer Calderon, 53, and Shea Moses, the nephew of 79-year-old Gadi Moses. A woman throwing eggs at the protesters was arrested, according to Hebrew media. Also in attendance were members of a female lead protest group urging Israel not to launch its looming offense in Rafah and claiming it would endanger the lives of the hostages, many of whom are believed to be held in the Gaza's southmost city. Entering Rafah means abandoning the lives of the hostages, the group said in a press statement. After a year of being promised that the military action could bring the hostages back, we all understand that the only way to save those who can still be saved is through a deal. And that is why the people that preach for individuals like Netanyahu, individuals like Michael Rapaport or Mark Hamill or any of those individuals that are cowardly supporting the menace that started all of this, don't give two rats' asses about the hostages. The hostages are there as leverage to continue on their warfare. And the people that are actually protecting the hostages, not only did we see with Hamas actually serving the hostages food and water and sheltering them and treating them like human individuals, not only that, but the people in Israel are trying to protect innocent Palestinians and the hostages and people within Israel. There's a humanitarian effort, in fact, because when we realize that our governments are manipulating us to hate each other, once we recognize that and stop that from fueling ourselves, then we can focus on the humanitarian action that whether you're Palestinian, Israeli, American, whoever you are, that doesn't matter. We're all human beings. We all deserve the ability to survive and live diplomatically. That's all. That's what these people want. And of course, you're not going to hear this from Michael Rapaport and all his TikTok videos posing that, oh, where's the apartheid? Where's the apartheid? You're not going to hear this from him. It is to believe that 129 of the hostages abducted by Hamas on October 7th remain in Gaza, not all of them alive. After 105 civilians were released from Hamas captivity during a week-long truce in late November, and 4 hostages were released prior to that, 3 hostages have been rescued by troops alive, and the bodies of 12 hostages have also been recovered, including 3 mistakenly killed by the military. Whose military? Israeli military. I thought we were supposed to save the hostages. I thought we were supposed to do that. I thought it was about humanitarian causes. It sounds like the exact same crap I've been hearing for 20 plus years. Which is why I didn't believe this from day one. I didn't believe this from day one. Just like Ukraine, I didn't believe it from day one. I didn't believe the Afghanistan war from day one. Because there's always more to the story that they're not going to tell you to sell you the idea of war. We have to keep you in fear. We have to keep you in paranoia to sell you the idea of why we have to go in continuous war. The IDF has confirmed the deaths of 34 of those still held by Hamas, citing new intelligence and findings obtained by troops operating in Gaza. Don't give in to the pressure of extremists who use the hostages as an excuse to continue warmongering, the groups add, addressing Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu in the wake of the warnings from far-right members of the government, including National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir and Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich against making a hostage deal that requires dramatic concessions on Israel's part. So, again, the reason they're not focused on the hostages and the reason they would never care about the hostages, because again, this is all leverage. This is all leverage for them to continue the warfare so they can take over Palestinian land. They can annex those people, basically off, and they can control the nation. They can control that nation, take their natural resources, take all their stuff, kick those people out or massacre them. They don't care. And it's not going to stop just in Palestine. They want to also get into Lebanon. They want to get into Rafah. They want to get into other territories. They want their empire to grow because these are bloodthirsty, blood-curdling businessmen that don't give a shit about anyone, not even their own civilians. It's all leverage for their war games. And the fact that Benjamin Netanyahu and his lucrative committee inside the government paid members of Hamas to bolster themselves as the terrorist group. They're funding the terrorists that they're supposedly fighting, shows how this is all manufactured. They wanted this to start. They wanted a massacre to happen on October 7th. They wanted hostages. They wanted some sort of excuse to get their war in action, and here you are. And it's amazing that people are not realizing this. They haven't realized that it's a entire setup from day one. It has nothing to do with religion. It has nothing to do with the people. It has nothing has to do with the humanitarian efforts. In fact, they are exploiting humanitarian aid and diplomacy through this. Those who are abandoned must be returned. Deal now, the protesters said. The hostages were seized during Hamas's October 7th massacre, which saw some 3,000 terrorists burst across the border into Israel by land, air, and sea, killing 1,200 people and kidnapping 253, mostly civilians, amid the brutality and sexual assault. And when I saw that, the thing that came to my mind, because I don't know much about Israel, I don't know much about that territory. I know we covered stories here and there, but I don't know the whole entire notion of the settlement and what I know now compared to then. But the one thing I did know is that countries have spent upwards of trillions of dollars funding for their defense. They have a multi-trillion-dollar Iron Dome, which means they have AI military equipment, they have border protection, they have the highest-ranked military officers controlling their border and seizing their territory. They're like the most aggressive military on the face of the earth. And still no one has explained to me, there's no evidence to understand how the Iron Dome, the multi-trillion-dollar Iron Dome, was jeopardized on October 7th during a music festival when people stormed in with F-150s and hang gliders. No one has still came to conclusion with that. No one still has any conclusion onto why that specifically that day they came in and somehow the Iron Dome was unavailable at that time. Somehow the Iron Dome failed them during a music festival, which they were warned. They were warned that this music festival right up at the Gaza border was going to cause havoc. Netanyahu told visiting U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken on yesterday that the IDF would launch a massive invasion of Rafah to dismantle 4 remaining Hamas battalions, whether or not there is a hostage deal, according to an Israeli official. During the meeting, Blinken reiterated Washington's opposition to a major IDF ground invasion in the southern Gazan city, where over 1 million displaced Palestinians are sheltering amid the ongoing war. Absent an effective plan to make sure the civilians are not harmed, which he said Israel has yet to provide. And again, they told people to go to the southern border. They told people when there was the invasion into Gaza and into the West Bank. They told people, oh, well, if you want safety, you got to go to the southern border. Now they're going to the southern border. So again, this has nothing to do with people. This has nothing to do with people, religion, any of that. Don't believe any of that goddamn garbage. This is about nefarious schools in control of their government that wanted this war to happen. They just needed some sort of scenario to play out so they have an excuse for it. And people are finally waking up to it. It's finally being exposed. People are talking about this on TikTok, which is one of the reasons it's getting banned. Why college students are all of a sudden in Ivy League schools are finally coming to terms and realizing the whole damn system is a goddamn joke. And here we are once again. It feels like back to the Vietnam days, where people were massively protesting against this authoritarian regime that's nothing more than expending its military apparatus around the world while crumbling our nation inside. And just showing history, that's what happened to the French Revolution. And why Rome fell. They expanded so much, but they were crumbling within, and next thing you know, the people rose against. That's what's happening right now, folks. And it's happening right in the heartland of said genocide craziness. Because here's all the people by the thousands in Tel Aviv, in Israel. These are Israelis that are protesting against their own government. Watch this. Look at that. By the thousands. God, look at all those self-hating anti-Semitics. Those goddamn self-hating Jews. They don't represent the true nation of Israel and the Zionist movement. That's why I guess they're not getting laid. That's what that NYU professor said, right? They're not getting sex enough, so that's why they're protesting against the genocide. That's nothing to do with actual moral or decency or human values. Even Kim Iverson pointed to that. Must be Hamas supporters. Well, if you look at where Hamas, their money is coming from, who orchestrated and, retaliated the Hamas terrorists to the position that they are, yeah, Israel is a Hamas supporting industry. Same with the United States. I mean, we support the Mujahideen. We created the Mujahideen. That became Al-Qaeda, ISIS, and the Taliban. And then we spent trillions of dollars fighting in wars that bolstered more of the terrorist groups. So it's a giant scam, and I hope people are awakened to this. And if you're not awakened to this, if there's still people out there that are still pro-war, wanting this genocide, still saying that Hamas are terrorists and it's anti-American, bullshit like that, I got one thing to say to them. And I want people right now to listen to this because I'm giving you permission to say it to these people. Then why aren't you fighting over there? If this is the biggest thing that you're worried about, not bridges collapsing in your backyard or lack of health care or the homelessness epidemic that's still circulating in America and Canada, and the biggest focus right now for you is how you feel lack of security because two nations overseas are fighting it out, then lace up or shut up. That's what I would say to these people. If you care so much, if this is the biggest priority to you and everything else it doesn't matter, then by all means go over there and fight. Lace up or shut up. Because at least the college students, yeah, some of them may be not understanding and maybe just going with the flow, but a lot of them know what they're supporting, know what they're going against, and realize the scam that this is all being played out. And this is from your tax dollars being paid to mass slaughter individuals that has nothing to do with anything. It has nothing to do with humanitarian. It has nothing to do with the human. None of it. It was all a ploy from day one. And then there isn't enough Benjamin Netanyahu's or Ben Shapiro's or Michael Rapidaport's to convince you otherwise. Because that's what they are. They are salespeople. They are sales representatives for the Mossad in Israel and the American imperial empire of war. To sell you the idea, the constant fear-mongering, the constant paranoia that somewhere out there are people that are going to kill you, so we got to kill and mass slaughter as many people first to protect our safety. Is a scam from day one. And even Israel knows it's a scam. What does that tell you?